Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. My team is back, everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi.
One of them.
Yeah, one of them is. Yeah. One's back in a big way. The other one, if it isn't for the Pistons, wow. Kaboom. All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
You know, it could be worse. Did you know the Pistons last night completed the entire month without a win? Did you see that?
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Aren't they paying Monty Williams more than any other coach in the NBA? Didn't he get the biggest contract? Something like that.
I don't know enough about the Pistons.
I mean, I can't imagine he's making more than Greg Popovich, but all right, or Spoelstra for that matter at this point, considering how long he's been coaching that team. But whatever.
I'm not going to try to say anything about the Pistons. I don't know anything about that team.
Yeah, so. I don't. Yeah, this is not Pistons radio. We're not doing the Pistons hour. That's not happening here. Let me start with football. Football Friday, everybody. Football Friday. The Cowboys-Seahawks game. Wow, Al got himself a good game last night. How about that?
Yeah.
Al finally got himself a good game. Kirk was actually into it too. So you know what? Like the gang's getting together. Finally, year 2, week 13. Finally, the guys are all pumped up.
Well,
so that was a good one last night.
I do think the joke last night was like, oh, wow, a good Thursday night football game. Let's go look at the schedule. Oh, gee, they're both on normal rest because they both played on Thursday last week. Like, gee, yes. I wonder why the game was good. It's very simple.
I mean, there is no changing this. You're stuck with Thursday football forever. But I agree with you. Like, the fact that they had a little more time going into it, maybe that's a way to look at this. Could you do it off of bye weeks? I don't know. I don't know. Could you find a way to do that? I don't know.
So I've largely said they need to figure out a way to kind of make like a rotation. Like you make a division play on Thursday. Maybe you do 2 to 4 team. Like I guess you'd have to do 4 teams, and then you almost like round robin it. So you put them on a Thursday schedule. The problem is you then get the same teams, though. So I don't know how you do it, but there is a way.
I don't know how you do it either.
But
I also I wouldn't mind if it's off buys. If it is rivalry games, I'm all good with that. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to go. Like division games on the Thursdays, totally fine to me, as long as both teams are coming off some kind of ample rest, and then you get like the real version of those two playing each other. I'm down with that.
Well,
I would like to see them rejigger this because we did get a good football game last night. We actually got one of the best ones of the season, honestly, last night between those two.
By the way, elite uniform matchup, by the way, too. I love the Seahawks that they wore those on the road. That's fantastic. But what I would say is this. This is where they're going to be the where they expand the season 1 week and then you do 2 buys, and then you'll have a bye for every Thursday game, and you're not quote unquote burning it for the Thursday night game either. I think that's what you do. The only problem you're going to run into is when do the buys start? After week 4? Is that when the first buy hits? Something like that. So
yeah.
So the first month is going to be dicey. Is what I'm.
Well, what if? And I'm sure Amazon would be down with this. That we start the Thursday games later, but they're double headers.
Oh yeah, no,
How about that?
I think that could definitely be an option. Yeah, for sure. Or you could just do what Monday Night Football does. You do like the double header, but you stagger the times out. You do a 7 o'clock and a 7 o'clock and an 8:30, whatever you want to call it. I think everybody would be down with that 100%. Especially,
I also think
the product is good.
I agree. And then I don't know, if you could stagger out I've always thought the buys should have, I don't know, I feel like the competition committee ought to talk about that division teams should have similar bye weeks. I don't know why they stagger them out the way they do. So if they actually did this, they could have this week it's the NFC East. This week it's the NFC North. This week it's the AFC West.
Sure.
You'd have rivalry games. It'd be pretty good. I don't know. I mean, I bet you the other networks are like, we'd like to have one of those Cowboys Commanders games. So shut your mouth about that. But I don't know. I'm just looking for answers here because I agree with you. These Thursday games are tough. We had one earlier. We had 2 years in a row we had it against the Bears. Both of those games were terrible. Both of them were on short rest.
For different reasons.
For very different reasons, yeah.
So
they're both extremely memorable for very different reasons. This year's Bears-Commanders game was, oh my God, we're broken. What in the world is wrong with us? Last year's Bears-Commanders game was seeing Al Michaels point out that Dan Snyder will be selling the team,
right?
And was one of the worst football games you'll ever see in your life.
One touchdown, right? Was there only one touchdown in that game? I think
12-7 was the final.
Yeah. So
did we score a touchdown in that game? I don't remember. I can't remember now. I feel like we did. I don't know. Who knows? What did we go for 2 at some point? Must have. Who knows? I don't remember. All I remember was Al pointing out Dan Snyder's in trouble, which was amazing that he did that, and the stop at the goal line. Benjamin St. Juste stops Darnell Mooney at the half-yard line to end the game, and that's how they won. That's all I remember about that.
Brian Robinson scored a touchdown, and then Justin Fields also had a touchdown pass to Dante Pettis. That was your 2 touchdowns in that entire game.
Yes, and I think the only reason why we scored, because I think Wentz had like 30 yards passing. It was like some stupid number.
12 of 22 for 99 yards.
There you go. And that was also the game he broke his finger.
Yes.
Which led to Heineke coming back.
Right.
Oh, exactly. My. We're walking down memory lane. All right, let me get back to the...
I will say this on Wentz. That was the game where he threw a block, and I was like, oh, that was badass.
Yes.
And that was his best play of the game. Anyways, sorry.
Let's see. Cowboys now have won 6 of 7.
Yep.
And here are the scores in those games. At Chargers, 20-17, which doesn't look as good as it probably looked at the time. Then they came home, played the Rams, blew them out 43-20. Then they went up to Philadelphia, and they could have won, but this is a lot of the Eagles games. Like, the Eagles are just kind of find ways to win. That's the one where Dak stepped out of bounds on a 2-point conversion, had a crazy end-of-game sequence where they went backwards 25 yards and then couldn't score when they had a chance to win right at the end, but didn't. Eagles win 28-23, and they've bounced back with these 4 scores. 49-17 over the Giants, which looks better now off of the last couple of weeks, the way the Giants have played, where they've won their last 2, and at least they're competitive in their games. They beat the Panthers 33-10. That's not a surprise. Beat the Commanders 45-10, and then turn around and score 40 again. So they are at least 33 points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 6. Uh-oh. I liked them. I think I picked them at the beginning of the season. I said I think they're gonna win the division because I expect Philadelphia not to be as good as they were, that they will come back a little bit, and because Dallas has these kind of tilt plays in them, defense and offense, and that's played out this way. They have these games spiral on these other teams. Last night was actually I thought was actually a very, very good sign that they are built for playoff football as opposed to the spiral plays against the bad teams. Because blowing out the Rams, Giants, Panthers, and Commanders, none of which are going to be in the playoffs, that's one thing. But then coming back fourth quarter against a team that's desperate, well, that's a whole other story. So I actually think last night was very telling about them, but their schedule gets nasty now, and we are going to find out what they are. Listen to their next 4. Home to Eagles, which is their season, in my opinion. Then they go at Buffalo, and they're going to need it, Buffalo. Like, no matter what, they're going to need it because they kind of have to win. At Miami, we're going to get a good look at them this weekend, and Miami is streaking towards who knows what, maybe a 1 seed. Yep. We'll see. Right. Then they get home to the Lions. That game's going to matter for probably positioning, albeit I would expect Detroit will probably have that division locked up by then, but who knows, because they've slowed down a lot in recent weeks. So who knows? And then they'll finish with us here at FedEx Field. But the next 4 for them, next month for them, it's all playoff or potential playoff teams. But started yesterday, Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions. And the Eagles game next week is their season, honestly. Like, if Philadelphia beats San Francisco, it's a must for Dallas. They're going to have to beat them next week. If San Francisco beats Philadelphia, this will be for the division lead in Dallas next week. So it's their season, because if they lose either way, they're going to end up being a wild card, and that means they won't be at home, which means I won't buy them getting to the Super Bowl. But if they can win that division, I think all bets are off on them this year, because Dak is playing great, and their defense has this propensity to flip games upside down. So they're playing about as good at this time of year as I can remember with them. And they've had good seasons. People forget, like, they think they've been like mediocre. They've won like 12 games the last couple of years. It's not like they've ever really been bad. So, but they feel different to me. This is why I thought they would win the division. They're capable of scoring a lot. Dak's playing at probably his best level since the bad injury he had a few years ago. And then their defense has tilt plays in them. So watch out. And next week is, I wish we were part of things like this. We got a Cowboys-Eagles game that means a ton in the middle of December. And this is why these games should never take place in Week 18. I'm glad it's happening next week because that's somebody's season. And that's the way it ought to be. That is somebody's season next week.
Oh, yeah. It only took, 5 years for one of these to actually mean something. So, yeah, I guess
that's right.
Broken clock is right, twice a day. I will say this, too. I mean, this I don't think anyone thought the Cowboys would be bad. It's just this is what happens with them. Their reputation is, they'll have a good regular season, and then in the playoffs, come talk to me. They're full-blown Capitals right now. Everyone knows that they're going to be fine and that they'll probably be a playoff team. It's when the game is elimination style. How does Dak play then? Because I feel like Dak always puts together like a 3 or 4 week stretch where he is really, really good and everyone starts talking about him. And then he does something dumb in the playoffs and everybody kind of writes him off again. So, yeah, like I don't disagree with what you're saying about Dak and the Cowboys right now, but I just know that when it's come to the playoffs with these guys, they have choked in a way that Stephen A. Smith comes laughing about it the next day. And they take care of who they're supposed to take care of. Let's be real here, too. Like, they beat the Buccaneers on the road last year. They still won a playoff game on the road against Tom Brady. I know he's not the
easily.
same. And I know he's not the same, but that's still, you know how this is. A game on the road in the playoffs, you just don't know what's going to happen. But then there was that game against the Niners where the last play of the game is like
that was
Ezekiel
funny.
Elliott being a center. Like, they lost their mind. Like, I think that's what everyone's waiting for. So I'm with you. Like, right now it's fun to watch, but for now it's like, all right, come talk to me in January. Let me see what they do then.
Well, here's the other one I think that needs to be pointed out here, and I'm surprised this is the case, but Kellen Moore and their offense in LA sucks. Like, they can't score a lot of points. They've got Herbert and all that. McCarthy got rid of him, even though their offense was top 5 again last year. They got rid of him so he could take over the play calling duties, and they're way better. Like, they are. They're way better. Like, so whatever it is, that bet paid off for them. So I would give them credit. Like, that bet paid off. McCarthy, it's working with him and Dak right now. Dak is way better, more proficient this year. I still think they have warts. Like, I don't think they can run the ball as well as I think they need to when it comes to like playoff football. Like, if they play a team like the Eagles and they need to squat on the ball and not give them the ball back, are they capable of doing that? Like, I don't really know, which is why I think they should have got a better running back to complement Tony Pollard, but whatever, that's their problem. That said, Dak's playing at an elite level, so much so that people are saying he's number 1, 2, or 3 for MVP this year, and their defense has this crazy propensity not only to either shut people out, but have tilt plays that turn games upside down. Yeah. So they stink of a team that if it all comes together, they're going to get to the Super Bowl. But I think it starts with them getting the home playoff games, which is why next week is going to be, however this happens with Philadelphia this week with San Francisco, it's going to matter. Like, this is their season. If they end up getting swept by the Eagles, they're not going to win the division. They're going to be a wild card team, and I wish them a lot of luck with that. If they end up somehow winning the division, watch out. Like, actually, they could be, because of the defense and the capability they have to flip games upside down, watch out. So it's possible the last 2 weeks, starting Thursday and Thanksgiving with Washington, Dallas, and now this weekend against Miami, we may have played the 2 Super Bowl teams back to back. I think that's a possibility. Yeah. That's a possibility that's happened here, because I keep watching Miami, and you know what they remind me of the more I watch them, like getting ready for this game? They actually remind me a lot of Philadelphia. That I actually don't think they run a lot of different plays. They actually run a subset of 5 to 10 plays, and Ron Rivera will love this, he's got roster flexibility with the players. These players are asked to play different roles in the same plays, and I think it's confusing. So I think that's all they're really doing here, because the vast majority of it, same thing with Jalen Hurts, like the ball's actually added to his hands immediately. It's the same thing with Hurts in general. They will take shots down the field at times, but they take selective shots. Same thing with Miami. Most of it is 2 seconds, ball is out. He makes a decision pre-snap. The motion that they use dictates the matchup they're looking for. He tries to locate it and has to get rid of the ball, and he hopes that their formations and all the different movement and formations and the flex that they use with moving a receiver to an H-back or a tight end to a wide receiver or a running back in the slot, they're actually running the same 5 to 10 plays. They're just putting different people in different spots. That's all they're really doing. But it's confusing to people enough that they turn these, because of the players they have, these 5-yard plays into 30-yard plays. And it only takes a few of them, and the game gets flipped with them. So they remind me a lot of Philadelphia, honestly, when I watch them. Not similarly with the styles of play, because Hurts is a much more proficient runner and danger to run the ball than Tua is. Tua's going to hand it off, roll out, or get rid of the ball very quickly. Hurts is willing to run the ball. So it's different. It's a different style. But I feel like we're preparing for the same thing, which actually gives me a little bit of hope that with a different voice in the room, and what I actually, I'm not saying they're going to win. Okay. Trust me. I'm not going to land there. Where I've landed on is I think there's a possibility this game's relatively close.
The command tangibles alarm was going off in studio.
No. I'm not calling them a winner here this weekend. I think that team is functioning and executing too well. That's our problem here. Our problem, here's where our problem is. And this has happened the last couple of weeks. Things got out of control for short periods of time because we lost our structure. We lost our assignments. Teams go up tempo on us. Why are they going up tempo on us? The Giants admitted it post game, because when we don't substitute after a period of time, our guys miss their assignments. So what is Ron Rivera doing this week? He has said, and I've talked to him after practice today, and he talked to the media as well, that he thought what was the most important thing to do was to simplify this thing. And what he just means by that is he basically said, when things are kind of going the wrong way, you try to patch it, and we're giving more and more and more to try to get everybody in the perfect play to stop whatever's in front of them. And it's led to more and more mistakes, and then more confusion, and then less trust. And then all of a sudden, people aren't playing fast.
Right.
And therefore, and you play a team like this, you're going to get burned, let alone get burned by the Giants, who don't have skill position players like this. So his point is, let's just simplify this, go play fast. We're not going to put a million rules on you. We're just going to say, we need you to recognize where the ball is going, which I think is what the most important thing is here, because that's the part of Miami's offense that is very tricky. They put in these different formations. They put their players in very different roles in these formations, and it's confusing. And if you can't quite identify where the ball is supposed to go immediately, because they already have, you're in trouble, because all they need is Achane, who's playing this week, or Mostert, or Hill, or Waddle. They have too much speed. They hit one of them in stride, and you didn't locate where the ball was going. They execute too well. These 5-yard plays turn into 9-yard plays on first down, or even worse, 30-yard plays, or even worse than that, touchdowns. They actually don't take a lot of shots down the field. All of this stuff is predicated on they're looking to move people around to get into a favorable matchup, get rid of the ball really quickly, and go from there. And every once in a while, they pop one. And our team has not shown the propensity over a period of time of staying disciplined, and therefore why I'm not confident, obviously, going into this weekend, because these guys execute, and I'm not confident with it. But I do think that while Rivera picked a hell of a week to take over the defense and try to change things against this offense, I do feel like what he is saying is it's late, but it's the right messaging, which is, guys, calm down. Let's just be football players again. We're going to stay within our system. We're not changing everything we're doing, but I'm going to take away some of whatever was happening that was confusing you and making you play slow. And you know what? Maybe that means that we're in a competitive game with this team. I watched them 2 weeks ago against the Raiders at home, and the Raiders were toe-to-toe with them the whole game. Their offense isn't good enough with that young quarterback that they have right now to kind of keep up with them. But defensively, this is what happens with Miami because they have explosive players. They gave up a couple of big plays, but that's about it. And Miami actually had a hard time moving the ball effectively because, frankly, most of the passes and most of the runs, they're all at the line of scrimmage. Like, they're not trying much down the field on. You would think they are when you see the highlights, but they really aren't. Most of it is really actually in front. They're just trying to create mismatches, confusion. You don't know where we're going with the ball, and then it's too late to fix it because Tyreek Hill is running as fast as he can across the middle of the field, and the guy's 2 yards behind him and is never going to catch him. Like, that's what their offense is. And I'm hopeful that we end up in a competitive game. I'm not crazy. I'm not calling for some kind of upset because I just don't think that our defense is fixable to the point where they beat teams like this without them making a bunch of mistakes. And therein lies the other thing that gives me just a tiny bit of hope here is if you can get Tua to second guess himself, because they're making pre-snap reads. What he does, you'll watch this. Watch on Sunday. He'll take 2-step drops, and he'll take this almost exaggerated step back with his left foot because that's his plant foot. He's left-handed. He takes this exaggerated step, almost like, you know how the Eagles, when they kind of jump every snap with their tackles and take that exaggerated back step? He does the same thing. The second he plants that exaggerated back step, he's throwing the ball. Well, when he doesn't, when the read isn't there and he gets confused, he's either getting sacked or throwing picks. So the system is working so well that he is rarely doing that. But there are a couple of teams like the Raiders, even the Jets last week, a couple times. You'll recall the Jets couldn't score any points. They were right there with them. They had a preposterous pick six that they gave up at the end of the first half. They were right there with them. They got him to make some mistakes. It's there with him, but you got to confuse him. And it means you have to understand what they intend to do, which means you have to figure out quickly where's the ball supposed to go into his mind. And if you can't figure that out, he's going to throw it exactly where he wants to put it. And he's not even going to think about it. He's going to plant that left foot down. He's going to throw it. But if you can confuse him and just get a hitch in it, he is apt to make mistakes. So, that's where I'm having a touch of hope that if this team plays a little bit faster, they're not as caught up in whatever rules that were confusing them or slowing them down. If that's freed from them, who knows? We've been overdue for a turnover anyway. We haven't had one in weeks. Maybe we catch a couple breaks here. I'm not calling them a win. I'm just saying I think we should be a little more competitive, and I'm not expecting what happened in Thanksgiving to happen again. I expect this game to be closer. It's just the problem is these guys end up scoring 27 points by accident, and I don't know that we're going to be able to do that.
So are you saying that the 7 to 8 minutes of incompetence isn't going to happen this game, which makes it not get out of hand?
I can't promise you that. Okay. I can't promise you that. See, that's the problem. Like the problem is like what he's saying. I actually buy. It's too late because they're 4-8. But what he's saying, I do buy as I agree with this. Like this might be a very simple thing. We have better players than what we've shown on the field. We are giving up a preposterous amount of deep pass plays, touchdowns, yards, and a lot of it's the same stuff every single week. And we've seen this. Every team goes tempo on them because they are apt to make a mistake or miss their assignments for whatever reasons, and the other teams clearly know this about them. Well, if you just free your mind, calm down, simplify the whole thing, just go play football. You guys know what you're supposed to do. We know we're not going to shut down Tyreek Hill. Nobody does, right? But let's stop trying to make the perfect play and just start playing football again. Then I think that, I'll go back to what I said about this team from the get-go, which is why I'm surprised their record is what it is. Like, for all the people who looked at it and were like, they're going to be a terrible team, I'm like, I think their roster's too good for that. I still feel this way, that I feel like their roster is too good to be this bad. So, especially on that side of the ball. So I'm hoping that we see better efforts, closer games. It's just that the way that they're executing and the way that they're playing, I don't expect us to have some kind of turnaround where we hold them to 10 points. I don't expect that. And I also, like you, we can't have this whatever 8-minute brain fog gap where nobody knows what they're doing because that team will score 21 points in that period of time.
Right. Yes.
So that's what I'm worried about. And I'm not no skin tangibles here. I'm not pretending that I think they're going to win. I don't. But I do hope for a more complete effort. I do expect professionalism. I do expect them to kind of hang in there with them because the Jets and the Raiders did the last couple of weeks. The score in the Jets game is a little deceiving. That was a 2-point game at half until they threw up a Hail Mary that somehow went back the other way for a touchdown. That's crazy. And that Raiders game, the Raiders could have beat them. I've watched that game twice now. The Raiders could have beat them. So I think this game might be a little closer than people think, but I'm not picking them. Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
Not picking.
Duh.
The other thing that worries me too, real quick. The other thing that worries me too, actually, that I think where I'm bullish about Miami actually moving forward is I think their defense is rounding into form. They took a bad loss with that Jalen Phillips injury last week. That's a really bad loss for them. But since Jalen Ramsey has come back, their metrics are unbelievable, actually. Like since week 5 or whatever, and then since he's come back specifically, worst quarterback rating is against them in the NFL. Worst third down conversion percentage is against them. Worst. Highest interception rate, it's against them. They have 38 sacks. It's like top 5 in the NFL. Like Vic Fangio knows what he's doing. That's actually why I think that like they could be set for a run, because their defense is rounding into a form that is actually scary. And their offense clearly, not unlike when we talk about Dallas, they have tilt plays in them. Like at any given moment, they can hit Hill and he turns it into a 70-yard touchdown. They only need a couple of those a game, and then all of a sudden their defense is good enough to win, which is why I'll go back to it. At this point in the season, it's possible that we played in back-to-back weeks the Super Bowl teams.
I mean, yeah, it could be. I mean, we'll see. I mean, once again, I don't know if Dallas is actually going to be there in the end, just because we all know what happens.
They're
with
not
them
to be
in the
trusted.
Playoffs. Right?
Yeah,
exactly.
They're
like,
not to be trusted.
Like I said, they're full caps right now. Come talk to me after you get to the NFC Championship.
I think they need to get home games. That's why I think their season is next week. I think they need to be at home. I'm not going to like them in January at San Francisco or at Philadelphia, but at home, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe. All right, we'll take a quick break. Josh Harris yesterday spoke. We were kind of in real time listening to some of the quotes that came out, but the Washington Post has a full recap. We'll talk about some of the things that he talked about with the future of the team on and off the field next. Brainwash the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I want to point out John Riggins, who put out a series of tweets today commemorating the passing of the first female member of the U.S. Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor, who he famously said to her once, "Loosen up, Sandy, baby," which is one of the all-time famous cult of Riggo stories that came out. I don't remember because he doesn't. I need someone who remembers this, like Rick Snyder or Andy or Lavero, to remember exactly what the context was as to when he said that and why he said that. But she apparently took that very much in stride. And he put out a series of tweets today commemorating her passing by saying, "I'm saddened by the passing of Supreme Court's First Lady. Back in 85, our chance meeting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner became an international event." Oh, so that's what it was.
Yeah.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner is where he did it. And over the years, our paths would occasionally cross, which usually led to a memorable occasion. One that I recall is at the Olney Theater, where after my performance, she came up on stage and presented me with a dozen roses, and I autographed a football for her. Another was at the Alfalfa Club in the Washington Hilton about 10 years or so ago. She was the outgoing president of the club, and during her farewell speech, she told the audience she had something she'd been wanting to say for years. "Loosen up, Johnny, baby." She brought the house down. So here's to you, Sandy, baby. You'll always be the greatest. So very nice of Riggo to commemorate her passing today.
I pulled up one of the write-ups on that night, and Riggo's quotes are amazing. He just said, "I'd been with a good friend, had a few beers, didn't bother to eat, went down to the hotel where the party was, walked in, and he said, 'God, I don't know why, because I hardly ever drink it. I had a double scotch, and I had another.'" And he said that's pretty much what loosened him up, essentially, to say that to her. So I thought that was a good series of tweets by John earlier.
There was one night I went with. Remember Fight Night? Fight Night used to be down at the Washington Hilton.
You and I have been to Fight Night together. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wish they'd bring that back. So love that event. It's like my favorite event for a lot of reasons. They just got rid of it. Just made me angry. Anyway, I remember once years ago, I used to go to that every year. Years ago, he went to one of them. We were working at the same station initially. I'm pretty sure it was like station dinner. We got a table or something like that. And we went and we had a night with him on this party bus and at the Ruth's Chris, right down from that Washington Hilton.
Yep.
And then you end up going to, you used to go to Fight Night, and then there was a women's event. I forgot what it's called now. It was like all the guys went to Fight Night, and then everybody when Fight Night ended would go to either the Four Seasons or something like that and meet up at the women's event. And I can't remember the name of it. And they had this glass crystal looking football. You know, it was like, I don't know why. It was like part of their event, and it was like a commemorative piece. And I remember him picking it up and hiking it to people. And I was like, oh my God. So had quite a night.
Yeah.
I got to see that in action for once.
Not bad.
Riggo in action out one night with the double scotch on top of double scotch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, things go interestingly with him.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Josh Harris, Mark Ein were among the speakers at the event yesterday downtown held by Sports Business Journal called Dealmakers. And they were asked a lot on and off the field about the Commanders. We had read a couple of quotes yesterday as they were kind of happening in real time, but the Washington Post has a recap of it, and here's some of the things that were said. In terms of, first off, they admit in the beginning, the premise of it is Josh Harris expressed disappointment in the recent performance, but stressed patience and focus on the long term. That is exactly in line with everything that I heard about him coming in and everything that I anticipated. And so when everybody was out looking for blood and waiting for him to knife somebody, specifically the head coach of the team, I did not think it would happen, because it was not what was relayed to me from the get-go. That outside of unforeseen circumstances, and I know 4-8 might qualify as that, but like something where, like a Josh McDaniels situation where you're like, we just got to make a change, which is not the case here, that they were going to give him the year, like whether you like that or not, like that's what was going to happen. And they were going to not only just give him the year, but honestly give him the opportunity to express his vision, show what he can do, what the team can do on the field, how the team is functioning, and then they'll make a decision about him moving forward. And they've lived up to that. And 4-8's disappointing, but nothing has changed. So he was asked about it because, listen, they are 4-8, and nobody did expect them to have this record. It certainly wasn't what you want to present to the new ownership when you're trying to, explain that you've got it going into the future. Sure. And this is what he said about it. Clearly, all of us are disappointed by the performance on the field, all of us. So we're focusing on that, and we want to finish the season strong. You've got to win. Everybody wants to win, and sometimes it takes a while. So I read out of that, one, he is not telling them to tank.
Right.
He is not that he should, but like he's not. That the message is, this isn't good enough. We expect to win. And I'm actually, and I know some people will disagree with this position because some people are already counting their blessings that the Giants won and the Bears won and we might be moving up the draft charts. I'm not into that. I would rather see this team start to play back to the potential that I thought it had. And I think that's a better sign for the future, in my opinion, than just going, well, this one's over. Let's just be terrible. I'm not into that. So I'm with him on this. I'd like to see them play better, and hopefully that'll start on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the type, and I'm a fan, so I don't care if I say this. I'm a paying customer as well. I would like to see them, go toe-to-toe with the Dolphins and lose 35-33. Like, that's my mindset here. Like, I'm at the point where I'd like to see Sam Howell look good, stay healthy. The defense has shown you what they actually are this season. While I would like them to play better, I'm not realistically expecting that. I'm not team tank, like go lose on purpose, but I am team show me shreds of things that we can bring into next season, and that's what I'm looking at, because the most important part about it is Sam Howell. I think, I don't think we've anointed him, but we've said there's enough there that he deserves at least one more year to see if he can be the guy, and so that's where I'm at. I'm not at full-blown tank, because I'm with you. That is a dangerous word to use, especially around in the locker rooms in the NFL now. It's just not a good look. But just give me something you can build off of, and then I don't really care about the wins and losses because they're not going to make the playoffs anyways. So
no, and I also don't think that, like, it's viable in football to do it. Like,
yep.
I understand why people in basketball do it. Like, because getting that one guy changes everything.
Yeah, it's a completely different roster.
Getting one guy in football, with the exception of this year, if you think Caleb Williams is that guy, with that caveat, or if you think you're drafting Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes or Peyton Manning or whatever, then I guess you suck it up and you do that. But there's no guarantees of that stuff happening.
Yeah.
And even in the case of two of those three names that I said to you, two of those three names were not number one overall picks. So it's not like that there's a proven track record of if you just tank, you'll be fine. I don't believe that in football. And I do believe that you set standards in places. And if your standard is, we don't care about this season, I think there's a carryover there. So I'm not for that. Like, I want to see them be different than they've been the last few weeks for sure. end the season strong, hopefully win a couple of games. And who knows? And be more competitive starting this weekend against a team that is really good.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't expect them to win, but I don't expect 45-10 either. And I think that would be an indictment of what's going on here if it happens again, frankly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think tanking's the word. I've never felt that with this team. I think no one really tanks in the NFL, period. The only year that you could really even sniff it would be maybe the Dolphins. But even then, Flores swears that he was coaching that team to win, and in fact, he actually got them playing really hard at certain times. So I don't think anyone's using tanking. I don't think you can do that in the NFL. Because also let's be honest here too, the Jags weren't tanking, but everyone knew Trevor Lawrence was the guy. Well, they haven't exactly just flipped the switch and been good since then, right? They're better this year, but they haven't fixed everything.
They had a bad year. Well, they had a bad year with Urban Meyer, and they got out of that.
Sure.
And then year 2 with Trevor Lawrence, and they were in the playoffs and won a playoff game, and this year they're probably going to win their division. So it's turned pretty quickly here. I mean,
what I'm getting at is it didn't flip a switch. They still had a bad coach. Yes, they got rid of Urban Meyer fast, as they should have, but it didn't just change everything on a whim. You need everything to click here. Yes, in year 2 and year 3, it has been better because they got a professional head coach. But it's not the end-all, be-all is what I'm getting at here. Tanking does not fix your entire franchise is what I'm saying here. So,
let's see. He did not address the Jack Del Rio firing or the changes midseason, but he said this when asked about making changes midstream. And he said, I have a public track record with Philly and New Jersey, and generally when you change a system, sometimes you have to do it, but you probably take a step back before you take a step forward. That's not always the case, but I think generally that's what the statistics would show. So I think it's important to be patient. You can have high expectations, but people have to say, we want to be part of this. So that's why you have to be measured with what you do. In sports, there's pressure. There's pressure from the public, but people aren't always thinking about that long game of what are you trying to accomplish? And what we're trying to accomplish is we want to have elite teams that consistently compete for championships. This is why I have always said that this decision, everyone just assumed, well, if things go poorly with Rivera, they're just going to make changes. I have never thought it was that simple, partially because of what he said. You have to have people that want to be part of this, which I think is an important part of the last 5 games here. We're going to find out from these players who wants to be here beyond this season. Whoever the coach will be, we're going to find out who really actually wants to be here. I know Rivera wants to be here. I don't know what his future holds, but I know he wants to be here badly. He's very disappointed about what's happened here. He didn't think this would happen. It did. And he's disappointed. And I think he's trying to express to Josh Harris that things can go differently with patience. Whether Harris buys that or not, we'll see at the end of the year. But I think that's why this has been more complicated than everybody has thought. All of the people who are in and around the organization have said really nice things about Ron Rivera. But there has to be results. And he is right about this other part, which is sometimes when you change everything, there is a step back. That is true. Sure. If you bring in a new GM and a new coach, they're going to rip apart this roster. Now, the interesting part of that is it's actually easier to do than in other places. There's a lot of expiring contracts. You have a lot of high draft picks. You have a lot of, you have all this equity, and you've got a young quarterback that if you like him, whoever the coach may be, you're not paying him anything.
Right.
So cap room, draft equity, expiring contracts, whoever the GM is coming in here is going to be sitting in a very different position than most that end up in a situation like this. The question is, what happens beyond that? And I think that's where things get very complicated here.
Right.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show you spent 6:30 at Sports Capital. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome Texas officially to what life in the SEC will be once they definitely move there, because this is straight out of something a Paul caller would do.
This is out of Animal House, man. Straight up.
They found a dead Texas steer at an Oklahoma State fraternity house. They're playing each other, Texas, Oklahoma State, in what will be Texas's last SEC Big 12 championship game, right? Because they're moving next year, right?
Right.
So, 1, this isn't funny. I mean, it's disgusting. 2, I don't know what happened. 3, how did they get the thing in the first place? 4, what happened to it? 5, oh, man, guys, you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Right. That's by the way, that's a felony. That's an animal cruelty charge. That's not just
I mean, what? how did they get it? Where did they get it from? And then what happened to it?
Right.
I mean, guys, what do you feeding it shots? Like, what are you doing?
It's 2023 player. Like, what are we doing here? Like, stop.
Grow
it.
up.
There's a million ways to troll and make fun of another school or another team, whatever you want to say. There's a million ways to make some waves. This is not one of the ways to do this anymore.
No,
like, come on.
It is not. But this is straight out of Paul. You know what I did today?
Oh, totally.
Get that Sarkeesian.
Yeah, right. It's right. It's right on par with the what was the tree that they killed? I forget.
In Toomer's Corner.
Yes,
he
exactly.
poisoned the tree down in Auburn. I poisoned it.
Right.
I poisoned a tree.
Exactly. That was, that's what put Paul on the map. Like, everyone knew who Paul was, but that was like oh my God, this is insane.
You found out how crazy it is, right? Which is why I love the Paul callers. You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
You have no idea.
Right.
All right. College football preview, Paul. We got games tonight. New Mexico State Liberty in the Conference USA Championship. Liberty is undefeated, but will not be in the playoff. Thank you very much. The one that does matter tonight, though, Oregon, Washington, which I do believe is a win and you're in situation. If Oregon beats Washington, and they nearly beat them the first time up in Seattle, and if they beat them, they'll be 12-1. Bo Nix has got a shot at the Heisman Trophy, prolific offense. I think they'll be in the playoff and Washington will be out. If Washington defeats Oregon for a second time and is undefeated, I don't know how you would keep them out. So we have a playoff game tonight in the last Pac-12 championship game ever. This is a playoff game. I think it's winning in. I don't think Oregon is going to be held out if they win this game tonight. I think they're going to be in. So this is a winning in game to me tonight.
Did you see where that game is at? Did you see where that game is being played? The
Vegas, baby.
Guess where the entire Capitals team is today. So,
they're going to the game tonight?
I've heard they're trying to, at least I know on the broadcast side with my friend John Walton, they're trying to
go to this?
Trying to rally the troops to go to what is going to be the last Pac-12 championship game. So, I've heard that there's going to be some people in attendance, or at least an attempt to attend that game at least.
I'll give you a little prediction. Oregon by a lot.
By a lot. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns minimum.
Wow.
Okay. They're going to smoke these dudes. Watch. Washington has been teetering back towards the mean for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. I don't think their defense is good enough for this, and I think they're going to get smoked tonight. And Oregon, having already lost to them, they're going to smoke them tonight. That was a great game, by the way. I watched a lot of it, the first one, when they played each other. So this is a great game. I think Oregon beats them handily, and there will be an argument because Ohio State will be going, what about us when Washington loses? I think Oregon is in after they win tonight. So Ducks in. Let's see. 12 p.m. tomorrow. Texas and Oklahoma State, disgusting fraternity brothers of Oklahoma State taking on Texas, as you know, is back, taking place at Jerry World. Give me Texas to win that one, and probably easily. Okay. Same thing. Right. 2 touchdowns. So they're going to be the ones. Let's see. I don't think they'll jump Oregon. They're going to need Florida State to falter. If Florida State falters, then we're in a situation. And they also very badly need Georgia to beat Alabama tomorrow. Everybody needs Georgia to beat Alabama tomorrow, because if Alabama beats Georgia, I think Alabama's going to get in one way or the other, and Georgia, I think, is going to stay in. So you're going to have 2 SEC teams. I saw some people say stuff like, if Georgia loses, no SEC team's going to get in. That is not true. One of them at least will get in, and it's going to be tough to figure out who it is, actually. Because if this game is really, really, really close, and it comes down to like a field goal, and they don't put Alabama in, they might put Georgia in anyway, and then Saban's going to lose his mind on everybody. So I think if Alabama beats Georgia, I think they're both going to get in. If Alabama loses, they'll be out. Georgia will be the top seed, and, as you were. Texas needs Alabama to lose bad here, like really bad, because their path in is Florida State either losing or looking unimpressive in the ACC championship game, and they might be down to a third-string quarterback, because the Pac-12 game, to me, is winning in. I think Georgia's getting in no matter what happens, unless for some reason they get blown out tomorrow, which I can't envision happening. But
exactly.
Short of that, I think they're going to get in. I think the Pac-12 championship is a win and in. Whoever wins that is going to definitively be in. And then it's going to come down to Alabama beats Georgia. They're going to put them in. They haven't lost since, week 2 or whatever it is, and they'll have beaten them. They're going to have to put them in, and it's going to leave one spot for Florida State or Texas, basically.
Yep.
That's what or Ohio State, or actually Michigan. Michigan's going to get in. This thing's upside down. This thing is totally upside down. So we'll see. Georgia wins, the world is right. Alabama wins, that's where we get into interesting territory.
Right.
Tulane plays SMU, I don't care. Michigan plays Iowa. Have you seen the first half line on this yet?
I have not. What is it?
Hawkeyes, first half points over underline. Hawkeyes, 2.5. The line is at 2.5.
Under.
They need right. Like they need a turnover to kick a field goal to make that happen.
Yeah. Under.
They need one play to get into Michigan territory and kick a field goal to make that happen.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. I am going to assume, because Iowa just cannot score points, that they will not win this game and Michigan wins, and Michigan will be in the playoff. So Michigan wins, they're in. I think Georgia's in no matter what unless they get blown out. Winner of the Pac-12 championship game is in. That's where everything else goes upside down. And then everyone's rooting for Louisville, because what are you going to do with Florida State if they're undefeated and they knock off Louisville tomorrow, but they're on their what might be third-string quarterback? Their starter got injured a couple weeks ago. He's out for the season. Their backup got hurt last week, and they're calling him game time decision.
Yep.
If, let's just say they win anyway, you go put them in over Alabama, Ohio State. I don't know.
Right. I doubt it.
Texas.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. I think in the end, if they win some low-scoring close game, they may take them out anyway, even undefeated. And if they win, or if they lose, they'll be out.
Yep.
But if they win some low-scoring close game, I actually think they might get booted for someone else, like either Texas, Bama, someone else. We'll see.
I could definitely see it.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Getting set for Game 13 of a 4-8 team. I didn't see it coming with Washington this year, and they're taking on a contender out of the AFC, Miami. I was talking earlier in the show with Callow as we welcome in John Keim from ESPN, John Keim Report. And after seeing what Dallas did last night, the way that they are extremely explosive on offense, the way Dak is playing, how their defense can kind of tilt games, and then watching Miami as they've kind of matriculated through the season and are likely to win that division now with the Patriots and Jets all but out of it and Buffalo kind of flailing a little bit. John, it's possible that Washington, the last 2 games, have played 2 teams that are going to be facing each other in the Super Bowl. Like that's a distinct possibility here.
Oh, Bram, you could add that about a few games because they play San Francisco coming up, and then you had played the Eagles a few weeks ago. So yeah, in back-to-back weeks, but overall in the last half of the year, they could play a couple teams they could play a few teams that could be in that game. Yeah, it's brutal.
Okay,
it's a brutal.
It is brutal. Yeah, it's a really brutal show. But this is why when we looked at the schedule early, and sometimes we're wrong about this, but sometimes we're right. We looked at the schedule and said their record's going to have to be above 500 when they hit this stretch going into Thanksgiving because there's a lot of what looks to be playoff teams in front of them. And it just didn't happen. And to me, the story of the season, it's the defense, and a change occurred a week ago. We haven't really had a chance to talk about it publicly because it happened after the Thanksgiving game. So let me just start with one. I assume you thought they had to do something. Were you surprised at all that they fired the defensive coordinator?
No, not at all, because what else were they going to do? I knew Ron wasn't going to be fired, and you're not firing the enemy. I don't, it's 1 year in, and you can't say that that's been the problem. So it made sense that what's the most by far underachieving unit on the team? It was the defense. And it certainly seems like it's a last-ditch effort to try and right what's gone wrong. And like maybe another voice, maybe another set of eyes can guide them through it. So no, when I had, I think a couple of us, but I know for sure myself, I had that story written before that happened. And when you get on the plane, you're kind of bracing for like, is it going to is something going to happen this morning? Because there was something I had heard that morning. It's like made you believe that something would happen. Wasn't like hugely revealing, but it's like, okay, that something's going to happen, and it's just a matter of will it happen in the morning or at 3:00.
Yeah. Okay. So the message this week from Ron Rivera, a lot of is he's not saying they're flipping things around or that they're going to do things specifically differently. What he keeps leaning back on is, I think we just need to simplify the message. We need to take some of the burden off of some of these players. Just let them be football players and play fast. And even if we're not in, what we tried to do was put them in the quote unquote perfect situation for each play. We just need them to alleviate some of this burden of whatever the miscommunications were. Is that kind of your read too of what he's trying to say is coming here in this change?
Definitely. But, every time there's a change like this, it's always going to simplify it, pare it down, and let them play fast. I don't care where you are, whether it's here or the Raiders or wherever. That always seems to be what is said. But I do think there's merit to them needing to do that. And, I remember talking to somebody last week who was like, the worse they started to play, the more they tried to do things to help get them out of it. And, for Rivera, too, there's also a couple other things, too, Bram, that I think can change in addition to paring things out. And you have to be careful because you can't run a simplistic defense in the NFL and be effective. But there are times you can be asking them to do too much, and you can have them maybe, are your rules changing too often, leading to confusion in coverage. But the other thing to me that's one of the things that I hope that we see is more pressure packages up front. Because the thing that was hard to watch was every week 4 guys running straight forward trying to get the passer. It didn't work. And I think that will be something that I'll be curious to see, in addition to paring it down, do you get a little bit more aggressive even against a quarterback in Tua who gets rid of the ball fast?
It's interesting, though. I mean, this is year 4, last year with Del Rio and Rivera. And last year they were top 3 in defense. And I don't remember looking at them and going, that's the creative defense that is tricking people and getting all these crazy turnovers. But then we turn around to this year and they're running what appears to be basically the same things, and they can't stop anybody. So I'm a touch confused about what happened here this year.
Well, so, and I will say, when you have Chase Young and Montez Sweat, you can do different things. And they were running some stunts, and you do have 4 guys capable of winning. And, then you throw that Cinco package in there and you create one-on-one for 4 really good players. You don't have that now. So I think you're right. Like early in the year, let's go back 2 years real quick. So when they lost Chase Young and Montez Sweat a couple of years ago, they started getting a little bit more creative with some of their pressure packages on third down. I remember talking to people at the time who would say that maybe they had relied too much on a 4-man rush because, listen, in an ideal world, 4-man rush is what you want so you can cover with 7. But they weren't getting enough pressure, and then they started playing better when they started, not because those guys went out, but because I felt like they adjusted their packages to create more pressures. And I thought some of that would happen when these guys were traded this year, and it really didn't. And like some games, it's hard to do that. Mac Jones getting rid of the ball fast, blah, blah, blah. Dak Prescott does not. You can do that against him. And only a couple times they did, and a couple times it worked. It forced a hurried throw, and it had the desired effect, and it was only a couple times. So, Tua is hard to do that against because he gets rid of the ball so fast, but you're going to have to try. And I think you have to, because you have to manufacture some pressure consistently, or at least because, how many times do you think quarterbacks are sitting there in the pocket confused by what they see from this D? I don't think it's happened a lot. And, whether it's, and, so I think, and it starts up front, but there's also stuff in the back. So I think you can see some more of that coming.
Well, and what was really telling to me over the last month, and we've talked about this a lot, but what was really telling to me was everybody was willing to play up tempo against them. Everybody, even bad offenses like the Giants, the Patriots, Seattle struggling, didn't mind doing. I know they looked good last night, but they were really struggling when they came into that game. All of those teams, bottom 10, bottom 5 offenses like the Giants and the Patriots, were going up tempo against them. And I think it's because they knew that, like, they were not going to be fooled by what they saw. And if Washington couldn't substitute, they would catch them. And it happened over, and it was a major red flag for me when bad offenses are walking out there saying, we're not going to let you substitute. You need to be concerned that you're tipping your hand too easily here.
I think that's a great point. And I think that also speaks to a couple other things. One, your ability to communicate. Because when you're in an up-tempo situation, that secondary has to really be able to communicate what you're seeing and, be on the quote-unquote same page. So there's that. I also think it speaks to maybe not being all that afraid of this offense either. Because if you are, you're not going to play a lot of up-tempo for fear of giving the ball back. And, so I think that probably plays into it. But I agree with you you're right, because it's been a lot where they've done that, and that's unusual. And but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. A couple other things. All right, I know this is spilled milk, and we'll go back to it, but off of the trade deadline, I believe for a lot of reasons the team had to move Chase Young if they got a viable offer, and they got one. And mainly it's based on his injuries and projecting out what the future is for him because of that. But with Montez Sweat, I'd go back and forth on it. And I think they got a pretty good deal. And at the same time, I think he's a pretty good player, but I don't know if he's $100 million a year player. Like, I don't know. That said, the defense hasn't collectively improved at all, like, since he's gone. And now they have a void of talent at that, what is a critical position on a defense. So how do you think the team is thinking about the decision to move on from Montez Sweat now a few weeks later?
Oh, listen, it depends on when you say the team, which part of the team. You asking the coaches? They clearly would like Montez Sweat back. If you're asking higher up, I think they felt like they got a really good deal and a really good asset that they're going to be happy to have come April. And, if you're ownership, you're probably very happy about it because you don't have to pay this guy minimum $20 million on a tag. And now you can get a younger guy at that position who does not cost as much. Or you don't have to invest as much in that spot and maybe get some quality ends where you can help improve the tackle play, right? Where you get ends who can be a threat better than what they have, maybe not at the level of Montez Sweat or Chase Young in terms of talent, but guys who can play and are solid, but then you kind of build around the middle and you get those tackles. So I just think it depends where you're talking about as far as who's going to miss them a lot. But make no mistake, like, I don't think they really wanted to trade Montez Sweat. I just think they felt like it was the best thing for them at the time and moving forward. Maybe not at the time, but moving forward, it'll be the best thing for them. But yeah, that one hurts. I mean, you watch, like, for example, the Seattle game, if you had had him, could you have had one more pressure or two more pressures that would have made the difference in that game? Possibly. Yeah. So that's the one that's the game where you say, like, that the Giants game, turnovers. Not about the ends. 9 sacks, turnovers, and sloppy coverage. But the Seattle game, you could look at and say, yeah, you may have been able to win that game with him out there. Or even even Chase. It wasn't like Chase likes to freelance. We know that. Chase had his flaws. We know that. But Chase also can rush the passer. So, we know that too. And but I think Montez Sweat was just a better overall package, with his consistency and all that. But so, yeah, that one hurt. And it still hurts him.
One more quick one about the defense. I don't want to ask you about kind of the future, but it's becoming apparent to me that Derek Force injury was a big deal. Like, I knew he was and I knew that he and Curl made a very good tandem, but they spent a second-round pick on a safety / nickel corner, but safety. They had Percy Butler in his second year, but his absence is notable, especially on the back end now. And that's another surprise that I didn't see coming, that he would get injured and it would hurt them on the back end in the way that it has.
It has. Now, I will say they were giving up big plays with him out there too. So it wasn't like he got hurt and now they're giving up all these big plays. They were giving them up. Now, it wasn't all because of him, that you have to say that. And I think Percy Butler's had a tough year, because even when Derek Force was in and they'd use a 3-safety set, there were times where Butler had some issues. And so, yeah, I agree. Like, again, they gave up big plays with him. It would have been fewer with him out there now. And some of it is they always talk about capping, right? Safety's got to cap it. So that means that, the breakaway run, you got to make the tackle, keeping it to a 10-yard gain versus a 50. That's happened a few times. Then there were a couple plays even last week against Dallas where if the safety's in his proper spot, he's able to defend a play better and maybe break up a touchdown. Didn't happen. Another time there was another play, a couple big plays that were given up because of that. And so, yes, I think Force makes a difference. Derek Force played fast, and last year, there were a couple plays he made against Houston, for example, where he reads it well. And there was a play against Dallas last week. It was like a 31-yard gain to the 7 right before halftime, and or in the second quarter. And I thought this, you're watching the play develop. I'm like, why is Butler not getting over there right now? What is he not trusting in what he's seeing? Is he still trying to? Because sometimes it takes a minute. It's like, all right, this is what I see. Oh, go, right? But Force, I felt like it did a good job of seeing it and getting over there. So I think that's kind of a difference too. But yeah, his absence has hurt them. And I don't know when he'll get back. Like, it's possible he gets back for the Rams game, but I think that I don't know for sure yet.
Okay. Let's talk about the future a little bit. So Josh Harris did a panel at a Sports Business Journal presentation yesterday, was asked a lot of on the off-field stuff. And I thought the thing that really stood out to me were two things, where he had a statement of basically saying, winning is hard. If you want to get to 8-8, I can do that for you pretty quickly. Right. But if we're going to do the things that we're talking about doing, it's going to be hard. That said, he has exhibited the patience that, was intimated to me early in the season, that he promised that he was going to let this thing play out and see where they land. Now at 4-8, and now with everything kind of up in the air, what do you think, and I know this is conjecture, what do you think is important to them as they try to evaluate what their next steps are going to be?
Well, first of all, 8-1 sounds pretty good right now, doesn't it? So what important to them, I think, I would say probably direction, right? Making sure you're going in the right direction, whether it's the staff, the front office, players. So you need to make sure is Sam Howell going in the right direction? Do you have the guy there? Who's going in the right direction on defense and other guys on offense? And, if you're evaluating the coaching staff, listen, it's going to be a results-based thing here. Like, if you, short of a really, really, a miraculous finish against this schedule, they're going to change. So, I think the evaluation is kind of ongoing, but a lot of it's going to be like, it's you're 6-11 and you can't justify that. So I think it's really about the direction of players on that roster in key spots moving forward, and where they have a guy, Eugene Shen, who's going to be key in their roster building. So where are you allocating resources? Where do you want to allocate resources, et cetera? And then I think when you get to GMs and coaches, my thing would be analytics is obviously very big and important to Josh Harris and his groups. So you better get people who are aligned with your thinking, because if you don't, it leads to problems. I watched what happened in Cleveland with their front office and coaching staff, how for a couple of years the owner would hire one person for one thing who believed in analytics and then hire a coach who did not, or vice versa. And then it took a few, which is just idiotic, but it took a couple times to get the right match. And I think that's what, for them, that's what they have to be doing too.
Okay. I think we both agree, and you had mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and this is I have felt this way all along, that no matter how this plays out, that there would be a split of duties, that there would be a general manager that is brought in here for the roster. And Ron Rivera may be, we'll see how the season goes, may be the head coach, may not. We'll see, we'll see how that plays out. Eric Bieniemy, we'll see. Jack Del Rio, we'll see, all that stuff. But that they would split this up. And I don't think that was, that's predictable. So, all right, now that we are where we are and change is likely if things don't turn around big time over the last month. When they're thinking about a GM, are they looking at certain organizations that they want to try to replicate? Are they looking at certain people? What's your just general sense of who they might be interested in to reshape the roster?
And that's a good question. And it's really hard to say exactly who. But when you start to look at people who will be available and what their backgrounds are, Josh Harris is going to look at successful organizations. So who are two of the best in the last 10 years? Ravens have been one, but the Eagles as well. And there are people out there, Ian Cunningham, who's with the Bears, Andy Weidel, I think it's Weidel, who's now with the Steelers. Both, they have ties to those organizations. Good, strong ties. That's what, to me, you're going to look for, because especially like the Eagles are going to do it in a way, like they're very big on analytics. I think they have the right mindset that, to me, a guy like Harris would want to emulate. So I could see them looking for somebody who's been with the Eagles. Again, Ian Cunningham would jump to mind. Andy Weidel, again, with the Steelers, who's an assistant GM there. Well, Josh Harris was a minority owner with the Steelers. So maybe there's, you get some insight into someone just because, right? And so I don't know. I think you're going to look there. I know the guy out in San Francisco, Adam Peters, will be, a lot of people want him. I'm not sure that he leaves. I believe he's from there. I believe, I can see John Lynch eventually elevating up and Peters taking over. So I don't know that he's going to be a real option, but I think those other guys would be. And there's Ed Dodge in Indianapolis. There are a few guys like that, but I think I would look at, just me right now, without them saying it explicitly, I'd look at people who have ties to strong organizations. That would be, again, certainly Kansas City would be another one. They have guys there, but Philadelphia, and Harris is from there. So I think, there's some insight, or not from there, but he business there, obviously. So I think that might be appealing to him.
Okay. All right. Last thing. They're playing another really good team this weekend. Explosive team. The matchup doesn't look good, the way things are happening. But
no, it does
let's
not.
see. No, it doesn't. But I mean, let me just put it this way. At 4-8, knowing there's a lot flying around here, do you expect a competitive team here down the stretch?
I mean, I don't think, listen, they still need, there are a lot of guys who need to prove things. I don't care what happens here. Eric Bieniemy wants to prove that he can run a good offense. I don't think he's going to let up on them. Sam Howell needs to prove that he is, regardless of who's here next year, that he's your starter, right? So there are a lot, and there are guys on defense, young players, Jamin Davis, Quan Martin, Benjamin St. Juste. They have a lot to prove still. So I think they will try to be competitive. I just think the hard part with this is can they? And I mean, the Dolphins are such a bad matchup for them that it's going to be hard to be. So I don't know. I mean, listen, against Dallas for more than 3 quarters, it was a competitive game. They just couldn't punch it in on offense when the defense was finally giving them stopping Dallas. So I think what they're going to need for it to be competitive, if it rains, you get a little bit of some wet fingertips that maybe the ball slides off, whatever. But it's just going to be hard to see that in this game. But I think you have guys I think there are enough guys where you're playing for something that it'll help in a couple games down the road.
All right. I'll see you out at FedEx Field on Sunday. Thank you as always.
Can't wait, Bram.
It's John Keim from ESPN. John Keim Report. We'll preview Week 13 next. Brad, what's the show? ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, let's get into Week 13. Playoff. Here we go. Got off to a good start last night. That was a good one. Cowboys beat the Seahawks 41-35. The end of the first half was crazy with a touchdown called back on what I thought was, I don't know, I didn't think that was clear cut that he had not made the reception, Smith and Jigba. They called it back, but because there was a pass interference, it gave them first a goal to 7. They scored a touchdown on a pass play that got called back because they said Dallas got a timeout in before the play was snapped. And then they had 3 straight plays where they threw touchdown passes, scored anyway.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Lost anyway. Yeah, it was crazy ending. And then Dallas came back in the fourth quarter. They've been blowing everybody out at home. They're 6-0 now at home. And I do think that, their season to me is actually next week, regardless of what the Eagles do with the 49ers this week. If they're swept by Philadelphia, they're not going to win the division. And so they're going to be a wild card team. If they beat Philadelphia, then they only just need to break down the stretch either way. And if they get home field or they some way, or at least win the division or get home field, they're dangerous. Now, are they trustworthy in the playoffs? I don't know about that yet, but it does feel a little different to me this year. Their defense is capable. This is why I picked them from the get-go. Their defense is capable of flipping games around. They are very creative. They make a lot of turnovers. And then their offense, if Dak's going to play this way, he's playing about as well as anybody. So, I hate saying it, but I mean, Dallas, Philadelphia might be the best 2 teams in the NFC. I think San Francisco have something to say about it this weekend, but they might be.
Not only are they 6-0 at home this season, they are riding a 14-game home win streak. That is patently ridiculous in the modern NFL. So yeah, if they somehow win the division, that's going to be dangerous as hell.
If they win the division or somehow the 1 seed in the NFC, they're going to have to talk about McCarthy getting coach of the year too.
Yep, exactly.
Like seriously think about that. All right, let's see. Sunday, 1:00, Colts at Titans. The Colts currently are very much in the playoff picture and are road favorites against Tennessee. Gardner Minshew versus Will Levis. Ew, yuck, don't care, not interested. But the Colts at 4-1 away from home. Oh, geez. Give me the Titans. Give me Titans at home to win. I think the Colts are a very average team. They're playing another very average team, but it's on the road. And if the Colts get in the playoffs, they will be one and done real fast. So here's to them not making it. How about that?
Titans aren't going to score enough, man. They only scored 17 last week against the Panthers, 14 against the Jags, 6 against the Bucks. The Colts offense actually moves the ball and scores over 20 points a game. I've also already used my 2. You win 2 games because Mike Vrabel's a good head coach. I've used them both already. I'm not going to use it again. Colts win this game just because they're simply better. I know they don't have Jonathan Taylor, but they'll be fine, I think, on offense. That'll be the difference here. Colts win.
Colts 3-game win streak, but it is Panthers, Patriots, Buccaneers. So they're not playing stalwart yet. They get Tennessee, who's 4-7. They'll get the Bengals without Burrow. Then they're going to play Pittsburgh, Falcons, Raiders, Texans. The roadmap reads that they may win enough to make the playoffs.
Right,
I think they may only need 3, and they might get 4 out of that.
It's also,
Indy being in the playoffs is a distinct possibility this year.
It's also paired with their defense has played pretty well, not perfect, but pretty well. And the offense, like I said, scores enough. They're not dangerous, but they're good enough. And I think they win this weekend.
So if the Chiefs are not the 1 seed and play them in the wild card, they're going to kill those guys.
Yeah.
They're going to
100%.
kill those guys in the playoffs. All right, let's see. Chargers at Pats. I would have never thought 4-7 and 2-9 at the beginning of the season for either one of them. I never, ever, ever would have thought that. The Patriots being average, sure. 2-9 and woeful, you couldn't have sold me on that. The Chargers at 4-7, I can't believe they haven't fired the coach yet. I mean, honestly, everybody kind of knows that, like, the writing's on the wall here. They are, if not the biggest disappointment in the NFL, they're up there for it this year with Herbert at 4-7. I mean, if they show up and play, I don't know how the Patriots score enough to win, frankly, but like, they're so weird and so untrustworthy, and the ones coming across the country, this is total pass. I wouldn't touch this, but because I have to pick something, I think the Chargers will win, and probably some dumb 21-14 game, something like that.
Yeah, I will stay away from picking a game. I will say this just because I hate when the scores get this low on the over-unders. It's set at 40 points right now. Give me the over on the points.
Sounds about right to me. The Patriots can't score.
Give me the over on the points simply from mistakes, though. That's both sides of the ball. I think there's some maybe a defensive touchdown on each side. I just think 40 points is so low in the modern NFL. Give me the over on points, but I ain't picking a winner here because this is two just ugly football teams from multiple standpoints. But if I had to lean one way, I would lean the Patriots just because they're the home team. But that's it. Like no other basis other than that because you're right. I don't think the Patriots can score a lot either.
Lions and Saints could be a very sneaky good game. Saints kind of need it, like big time. They're 5-6, but
put up or shut up for them. I mean, it's so
and they're
frustrating
home.
Watching them. By the way,
and they're home. Yeah. I mean, they're home. It's put up or shut up because their division predictably is terrible. Like they could still win their division easily here. I mean, they have plenty of opportunities to win their division. They're at home. The Lions haven't been nearly as good the last few weeks that they have been earlier. They needed a crazy comeback to beat the Bears, and then they had a million mistakes and lost to the Packers. Those were 2 home games. So, are they listen, I love them. They're America's team and all this stuff. They're a fun story, but that organization has never been a full season team ever. So I need to see it to believe it, even as good as their start was. That said, I don't trust New Orleans anymore. Yeah. I think Olave's hurt too. So will they be explosive enough to score the points? I mean, I look at their offense and I go, I don't know how they don't score points or how they're not winning that division handily, but they're not. So it tells me everything I guess I need to know. Give me the Lions for a bounce back, and they go win there by a touchdown to 10 points.
Yeah, I'll go Lions here as well. Olave in concussion protocol, so he just has to get cleared there. I'm not saying it's a better injury, but it is just something he needs to be cleared from. It's not like a hamstring or something like that. So I would think he would play, but he was still in concussion protocol as of today still. But yeah, I'll lean Lions here simply because I just hate the Saints. Like, they're so frustrating to watch with all of the talent they have. They honestly remind me of the Commanders. There's so much talent on that offense, yet they just can't put it together. The Commanders have scored way more points than the Saints. I'm not comparing them in that way, but it's like you've got a pro quarterback, you've got a couple legit wide receivers, maybe one of the most dynamic running backs in the league, and you just can't score a lot of points. Give me the Lions here. Dan Campbell figures out a way to win it.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions. Trust the Lions more right now. I'll take the Lions here. They haven't been playing particularly well, but I'll trust them more here.
By the way, it's a little bit of a homecoming. Dan Campbell coming from New Orleans.
Oh, that's right.
So I think he'll probably have something figured out for them as well. I think Lions end up winning it.
He's their Sean McVay. They shouldn't have let him out the building. How about that? They shouldn't have let him out. Yeah, right. Who knew? Let's see. Falcons at Jets. Oh
boy.
This is a car wreck game for the Falcons.
This is two fan bases that just like are woe is me the whole every step of
the way. Obviously it goes without saying that Atlanta should win. Okay. I don't think they're going to. If the Jets defense shows up and plays the way they've played the entire year, I think you're going to have, this is going to be a dumb 9-8 game.
Do you see the over-under?
Nobody's going to score.
Do you have the over-under?
33. Yeah.
Yeah, 33 and a half. Yeah.
9-8 Jets. Give me 9-8 Jets. The Falcons and like Bijan's going to have 3 carries. Kyle Pitts won't be targeted, and the Jets are going to win on some Desmond Ridder fumble, scoop, and score. That's what this is going to be. Jets win 9-8.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly one. I will. Luckily, that's just going to be red zone. That is not going to be on anyone's TVs for sure.
No. Cardinals at the Steelers. I mean, like Pittsburgh wins these games. I think Cardinals are obviously different with Kyler playing, but they haven't been able to put much together. I don't think they have a very good team on defense. Pittsburgh got rid of the guy they were pissed off at. Now their offense at least moves the ball. It's Pittsburgh at home. I mean, they're in the playoff hunt. It's not a bye, but it's close to it. Give me Pittsburgh here they don't blow anybody out. So yeah, right. I don't know. By 8, 9 points, something like that.
I will say this: the spread's 6.5. I know you're saying 8 or 9 points, but 6.5 with the Steelers over the Cards. I'm not buying that one. If I had to lean away, I'd be the Cardinals to cover that. But it's still going to be an ugly game. I don't think Pittsburgh scores enough to literally beat a team by a touchdown at this point. So give me the Cardinals to cover, but the Steelers definitely win this one.
Oh, that is a risky side to take them on the road in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
okay, all right, that's a risky play. I wouldn't feel confident in that one. That's not your best bet of the week.
Oh, for sure.
Promise you that.
For sure not. No. I'm
Lock of the week is not Cardinals and the points.
No. Do not get that twisted. Right. That is just a general run-of-the-mill prediction. If you are going to do that, and listen to me, buy the extra half point for the 7 for that matter. But yeah, Steelers are going to win this game. But I don't know. I just don't trust the Steelers offense to actually win by a touchdown. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't see this coming in the preseason, and I certainly wouldn't have seen this coming as of week 4.
Yep.
But the Broncos-Texans game is huge. And it might as well, at this juncture, be a playoff game, because this is going to be for a tiebreak. Neither one of these teams are going to win their division, which means they both are vying for a wild card spot. And with the Colts road that I already read to you, it seems as if that this is one of these two. The loser here may end up being out. Not that I trust either one of them to keep on going on some kind of run, but the way Russ is playing, the way the Broncos have turned it around, I'm buying Sean Payton for figuring it out. That's a heck of a turnaround from what started from this season. They've got the longest win streak in the NFL going right now. Stroud has been amazing. Texans are at home. I never would have circled this one in August and told you, watch out for that December 3rd Broncos-Texans game.
Right.
But here we are. Give me Houston. I buy them. They're at home. I bet this game is close. I don't put it past Russ to show the young kid how you get it done in the fourth quarter. But I bet this is a close game. 23-21 Texans. I think this is going to be a good one. 23-21 Texans.
I'll go 27-20 Texans. And that score prediction would technically hit the under. It's 47.5. That's a lot of points for both of these defenses. So maybe I'll tick that down a bit, maybe like 23-20, because I do like the under on that one. I think this is one where they know it's a big game, and this is how it works with both of these defenses. They will try to lock things down. I'm with you, though. Texans are at home. Heartbreaking loss to the Jags last week. Something tells me they're going to bounce back this week. This will be a close game. This is game of the day, in terms of the daytime matchups, in my opinion, in terms of like actual like ramifications and the star power involved. This is probably one of the best games of the day for sure.
Boy, if Jets Falcons is a bad one, what's Panthers Buccaneers? I mean, this is
that's
in the 4. It's in the 4 o'clock window too, which I almost
Nebraska.
Can't believe.
That's what that one is. It's going to be ugly, low scoring.
The more I think about it, the more I don't understand why David Tepper isn't coaching the team this week. That he might as well have done that. Like, well, what's the point? Like, he fires Frank Reich, then he fires the 2 most logical people to be the interim head coach, probably because they said, make me the head coach, or said, we don't want to be part of this because they don't want to go full Jeff Saturday. Now they got somebody out there. And this is one of those, for Todd Bowles, who I've heard great things about, you better win this one.
Right.
If you don't, there's just no chance you're going to make a case to ownership to stick around, I think, beyond this year. And for Baker and company, like, they're kind of in, like when Keim was on earlier and he's talking about how, like, hey, Sam Howell wants to be the quarterback here. Like, there's guys here that are going to want to show that they need to be part of the future. I think Baker's career is kind of on the line. He hasn't had a bad season, but he hadn't had a great one, but he hadn't had a bad one. I think it's going to matter to him. I think the Buccaneers will win. If they don't, like, I don't think they're selling anything to anybody about what the future is for them. So I'll take Tampa Bay just because I don't know how they would lose this game. So give me Tampa.
Yeah, agreed. The Panthers are a mess right now. You just take the other team when you have one of those teams. I think we've known that a long time around here. When you have those dramatic weeks, everyone just wants to play. Your team's not really focused enough. Buccaneers definitely will take this one.
Joe Flacco is starting for the Browns there, Han, against the Rams. The Rams are favorites at 5-6. The Browns are 7-4, very much in the playoff hunt. But, how many quarterbacks are they going to lose? The Browns defense is still really, really good. I would take the points here for sure. Like, getting 4 with one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I don't think it's out of the realm at all that they win outright. So give me, not that I know what they're going to look like with Flacco, but give me the Browns here. I don't Give me the Browns. Like, I bet this is low scoring close. So give me the Browns.
Give me the Browns here too. I know the Rams. The Rams remind me of like Vrabel and Belichick at this point with McVay and those in that same realm. Like they're in every game. They don't seem to get blown out often, and they stay competitive. But this is one where I think the Browns defense confuses the offense of the Rams, and they ended up winning this one. I'm with you as well. I think it's a road upset for sure.
I'll do game of the week in a second. Let's do the night game is Chiefs-Packers. Mahomes is giddy about playing in Lambeau. I guess he's never done that before.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The Packers have been way better the last few weeks, and the Chiefs' offense is not great. So I think the spread is reminiscent of this. It's under a touchdown. Like, I think you would automatically think Chiefs-Packers. Chiefs are like 10-point favorites. They're not. So I think Vegas knows this game is close, and I believe it will be. Kansas City wins these games. So, but I bet this game's relatively close. 24-17 Chiefs.
I'll go 24-21 Chiefs. Field goal.
Okay, yeah, I think it's going to be close.
Yep.
All right, and then what should be game of the week and might be preview of 1st to 2 when the playoffs roll around. These could be the two best teams in the NFC, 49ers at Eagles. 49ers won the NFC championship or lost the NFC championship game there a year ago after all their quarterbacks got hurt. They're favorites on the road, which I think is unbelievable considering Jalen Hurts and Sirianni's record at home, which is it's crazy. They've lost one home playoff game in like 2 years. So I don't know how they came around to that. The Eagles just seem to win games like this. I do think the 49ers have a better team, but this is going to be a slobber knocker. This one's going to be something. I don't know. 23-20, somebody kicks a game-winning field goal at the buzzer. Like, I think this one's going to be very close, and I could be convinced, frankly, either way. I am more inclined to believe the 49ers will win because I don't love the Eagles secondary, frankly. But I think that's where that's the one deficiency. But if Hurts and company figure out a way to win another close game, it will not surprise me for a second. So if I'm going to make a formal pick, give me the Niners to win by a field goal, but I could be convinced either way here.
Yeah, I think this is the one that smells a lot here. They're begging you to take the Eagles at home here. I'm not falling for it. I'll take the Niners here. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Vegas is trying to trap you and take the Eagles. I will say this. I like the under on this one. They're saying 48 points. Give me the under on this one. Both of these offenses are good at times. Great at times, but overall good. They're both going against elite defensive players, I should say, on this one. Give me the under on 48 points on this one, and I'll take the Niners with the 3 only because I think Vegas is trying to trick you to take the Eagles. There's just ones that stand out every week. This is one where I'm going, they're begging to take the Eagles. I'm not going to fall for it. I'll take the Niners on this one.
This is what happened. This is a playoff game, basically. This is what happens in these good playoff games. These defenses show up early. Like, watch. Like, this game's going to be scoreless after 1. Watch.
Yeah.
Like, neither. Yeah. That's what's going to be.
And then something like that.
Then things will open up. Yeah. Right? Then things will open up. But those first few drives, these guys are going to be hitting the crap out of each other. Yep. Watch. Watch. All right. So I'll take Niners close call. We'll see. Niners close call.